everyone. Welcome to our Galah show. Thank you so much, guys, who is watching us from Boston, Rhode Island, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Mexico. Thank you so much. If you miss our show, please check on our YouTube. Well, a few years ago, I went to Newport Jazz Festival. I have a great privilege to see legend B.B. King. It was a live experience, wonderful. And later, when I talked to the blues musicians, I find out the founder, George Wayne, they started this Newport Jazz Festival as a jazz and blues festival. And later become the blues festival like a folk festival. Why I'm just kind of talking about this? Because today we're going to talk about the blues music. And one of the great players, as a B.B. King said, Duke ROBILLARD. Welcome to our show, Duke ROBILLARD.
Thank
ROBILLARD.
you. Yeah. You know, I would like to put my parts.
Okay.
Among musicians, there is always one phrase goes around. If you play somewhere and somebody coming to you and said, you know, that guy and that guy, musician, they said, you can play, you know. It's already a great satisfaction with what you're doing. But when you reading that B.B. King himself said that Duke is a one of great players. He's a great player. That's mean much more. And I would say, would I ever heard about myself, for example, just thinking pathetically, you know, I would probably stop to play because there is a
it's a bottom line, it's a finish.
You know, yeah, I proved everything, you know,
right.
and there is a stamp of approval or something, you know. But there is not a stamp of approval because Duke is a great player. He is a trademark of American music, you know, and there's many players and they all making American music to be loved all of the world. And we're gonna talk about part which Duke brought for this music worldwide.
Welcome, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. When I check your website, I was so blessed and impressed how many awards you have. I understand about this 50 years, but it's still a lot. Tell me a little bit from the beginning. How you start?
Well, I started playing music because my uncle played bass in a country and western band, and he owned a guitar. And my brother played guitar, and my brother was I had two brothers. One is not with us anymore, but they were 10 and 12 years older than me. So when I was 6 years old, it was right around the beginning of rock and roll coming into being. But when I say rock and roll, I mean Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino, people like that, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley. But Chuck Berry and Fats Domino, they were a big influence on me when I was young. And I didn't really know it, but it was also blues and rhythm and blues. It's just they called it rock and roll then because the beat was different. But I started off by hearing the flip sides, the B-sides of Chuck Berry records were sometimes blues, slow blues, real blues, like In the Wee Wee Hours was the flip side of Maybelline, his very first record. So that made a really deep impression on me, and I just started searching for that kind of music, you know. At 7 or 8 years old, you know, it just took over for me, you know. I loved it.
Listening to your music for so many years, what I was doing, and my question is, listening, I've noticed there's a lot of jazz elements in your blues.
Yes.
A lot of written blues, soul music, many elements of different styles in your blues. What is blues for you?
Well, when I first heard blues, it was In the Wee Wee Hours, Chuck Berry. That when I heard that, I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know it was called blues. And I heard a few other songs, even an instrumental by a rock and roll guitarist, Dwayne Eddy, had a song called 3:30 Blues. And I didn't know what it meant, but it was that slower tempo and it had that sound. And I actually read later that B.B. King actually liked that song. And even when I was younger, I am one of those people that I remember sitting on the floor in diapers. I have very early memories. And I remember hearing big band music on the radio when I was just, you know, a toddler. And I remember hearing what I would assume was In the Mood, the Glenn Miller song, which is technically a blues. It's a blues that's arranged in a big band way. So every time I heard something that had the sound of the blues progression, it always just made me listen. So as I went along as a kid, everything I could find that had that feeling and that sound, I went after it and hunted it down and kind of investigated the history of it through Muddy Waters and all of the Chicago blues people. But also, the first time I heard Count Basie, it was like so much blues. And that to me was the ultimate music, because it was blues, but there was jazz improvisation, and there was a really powerful beat that made you want to dance. And I thought, this is the best music because it's everything that I love and makes you want to dance. It's got great feeling, it's got great improvisation, and it's still the blues, you know.
Next, what I would like to ask you, a couple of days ago, we were watching a TV show from White House, and the body guy was playing there. Really, really old man. You know, you can notice move there, but he sung so great. It's such
kind of
uplifting and
yes.
knocking you down, actually, you know. Physically, man is getting older, but lyrics, what was going from his soul, it's so powerful.
Oh,
and
yes.
you know, today, talking about today, and because there is a line of musicians who already passed away, you know, blues musicians.
So many.
And yes, so many. And there is today, can we say, okay, Buddy Guy, Clapton, if we're talking about big line, you know, of musicians who strongly playing, knows what they're playing for years. Do you have any concern who will take the torch of the blues tomorrow?
I'm not worried about it because there are so many young players, younger than me, not necessarily young, but also young, that have been studying the roots of it, that are really serious about it. And I see a lot of young musicians coming up, both black and white, that that have respect for the tradition. And I think that's the most important thing. It's important also to carry it on into the future and to inject new life, new styles. But I come from a more historic angle. I always love the history of where anything came from, music, art, anything. I like to go back and find out who was the originator and take it from there and listen. And that means a lot to me. I collect 78 RPM records.
Oh, yeah.
I have thousands of them, of music, not just blues, but dance band music and just early American even like singers singing hymns and, you know, just whatever I can find. I'm interested in the whole thing of how music developed in this country. It's very important to me.
But do you think, you know, that still, because a lot of clubs is closing, we know about this, the live,
Yes.
you know, the presentation, the live musicians. And I think, you know, this, even for 20 years, you know, how long we live in America, we can see we're losing the sense, you know, to going to hear, you know, the good live music. You know, so how just, it feels so bad, you know, how we can fix it?
Well, that is true that there's less interest, it seems, in live music. And many people are really fighting to keep, you know, their venues open so this can grow and continue to exist. But it is it's a tough battle. But I think eventually people will realize that without live music, I mean, it's, you can watch YouTube all you want and see the greatest musicians that ever lived, but it's still not the same
Interaction.
as being
Yes,
part
no
of.
connections.
Yes, yeah,
No connections, yeah.
You can learn, but the real human part is the interaction.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, and that's important.
And I want to tell you guys, buy Duke CDs, educate your children, educate yourself. And because there is a part of education we do not want to miss in our life. Because whenever we go and seeing live musicians, if they, I mean, if they're good musicians, because there is, you know, many in clubs, people playing for free, just how it works, yeah. But with a good band, you educate yourself. You constantly educate yourself. And there is a process of self-observation. You know, what is for you the part of education? You play for so many years with so many good people. You've met a lot of great musicians in your life, you know. That goes for you like just friendship or just one time meeting with person, or you still getting something from those people in terms of influence and education for yourself to produce your music?
Well, I think everybody that I've played with that I have great respect for has made a very big impact on me, and I believe that that doesn't go away, that it's something that you carry with you and it helps you grow. I've been fortunate enough to actually play with many of my idols. Big Joe Turner, to back him up, and Eddie Cleanhead Vincent, Freddie King, Luther Tucker. There's so many of them. That they've all made a big impact on me, personally, and a lasting impact. Muddy Waters, I got to play with Muddy Waters several times, and just knowing all these people and playing with them, you learn something. And one thing that is really great is that when you play with people like that and you realize when you do the right thing, they usually let you know it. And they let you know that you're doing it correct.
That's
like
right.
Big Joe Turner told me that he was going to get a tape of me playing T-Bone Walker songs and bring it to T-Bone's widow and say, T-Bone's not dead.
Amen.
Wow.
And that meant more to me than, you know,
That's right.
anything could possibly mean.
And
you
that
know.
shape you as a person as well. You
It
know?
does, it
because you know,
does.
we see that Duke ROBILLARD is a very humble man. Because through the years and watching your music, your performance and everything, you know, that music shaped you as a person.
Absolutely.
And who is your friends? your band, your music, your family.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and
I'm
I have,
asking, who is your friends?
Who is
well,
your friend?
yes, all of them.
All of them.
My band, of course, my family, and also, you know, people all over the world that appreciate the same kind of music, and of course, you know, other people that play the same instrument as you they always stick together and talk about who influenced them, and so guitarists all over the world, I feel like I have a good rapport with, and but also just fans that really appreciate the music. You know, it really makes you realize, because I've got to know some of my fans quite well, and you know, from different countries, and it's a very special thing, you know, because when you realize that you're truly a part of their life, and they're a part of your life as much, it's a beautiful thing, and it has a lot of value, a lot of value. I have, you know, a friend of mine, Fred Brookman, I've known for, probably 30 years now in Amsterdam, who has a radio show and is a great lover and very, very scholarly about music. Him and I have been friends for like 30 years, and we always keep up on what each other is doing. You know, we may not talk for a year maybe, but still we do see each other and keep in communication now through the internet.
Yeah.
And I have people like that all over the world. And,
That's great. That's great. Do you know, I was impressed about, of course, your Roomful of Blues.
Yes.
It's for the longevity, what's still on, you know, how this was born, how this was started.
Into words.
Yes. Just can you just...
Well, it kind of grew out of my obsession with learning about rhythm and blues, the early rhythm and blues like Louis Jordan and people like Buddy Johnson and T-Bone Walker and Amos Milburn, all the classic artists from the 40s, mid-40s, because that's when rhythm and blues came into being. I started collecting those records, and they weren't reissues because there were no reissues in 1969. You know, I had to go to different cities. I would take buses, and I would beg record shop owners to let me see what they had in their basements, even. You know, and I would come up with. You know, 78s of Jimmy Rushing and Count Basie and Louis Jordan, all of these people, and so I got obsessed about it, and I all my friends were musicians, and I got them excited about it, and also Al Copley, who is the pianist, the original pianist in Roomful of Blues. Well, I was maybe 16 or I was probably 17 when I met him, and he was 15. And he was already phenomenal, and he had discovered blues piano, and he was really good at that age. And so we got very obsessed by this music and started Roomful of Blues, which at first didn't have horns. It was a four-piece band, and then we added harmonica. And then when I started learning about rhythm and blues, and as I said before, how great this music is, that it has jazz improvisation, it's incredible dance music, and it's blues. It's very entertaining. I thought, this is the greatest music in the world. I have to preserve this, and I want to play it just like it should be played. So then we started getting, you know, different people who were interested, and then all the horn players which are people that I had bands with when I was in high school that had, you know, rock and roll bands. We all got interested in this music together, and some of them had played saxophone, and then we had a guy come in from California, Doug James, who we heard played sax, and we needed a baritone sax. So we found him, and we bought a baritone sax in a pawn shop and auditioned him and taught him what to do for the starters, you know. And so everybody, once we got going, everybody, the enthusiasm, or as people always tell me that I've known for years, that my enthusiasm for music has been very contagious. I know my friend Scott Hamilton, the jazz saxophonist, he kind of credits me for my amount of enthusiasm for this music as getting him more interested in it. So,
Well, we're just almost saying that, what's your enthusiasm today? What's your daily life today?
well, it's the same. In a way, I'm still discovering new things.
Okay.
I have to say mostly old music, but I keep aware of what's happening with new artists, and especially new blues and jazz artists. But my heart is always in the people that influenced me from the beginning, and I'm still looking for those records. I'm still finding them.
Go to
you know.
basement.
Still study.
Still study. It's still
yeah,
a big
yeah.
research. It's a big
And
research.
my way of studying is mostly by listening.
Yes, it's endless education.
Yeah.
The more you play, the more you're listening. You need to listen. You have to listen music. Please give a short advice to young musicians about guitars, because young musicians very often trying to buy immediately 3,000-5,000 instrument, and they think that the more money they pay, the better they will be playing.
Yes, that's easy to understand why that happens, and although people may want to play expensive Gibson guitar or an old Fender guitar, or whatever kind of guitar they play, the truth is that, and I'm all for preserving American-made instruments, but the world has got instruments that are made in China and Japan and Korea that are really good, and they're inexpensive. So in fact, I even play, Korean and Chinese made guitars, not all of them, but some of them. And the truth is that you can buy a really good instrument inexpensively. And the point is that you got something that you can play and that feels good, and you can learn to make your sound on. It really doesn't matter what it is, or even if it's a good instrument. Really, I mean, ultimately, most players want to have a good instrument that will, But to me, it's very easy to find a good instrument, and you
Well,
don't
I'm so
have to have
sorry.
a lot
I'm
of money.
apologize because we have an end of our show. But thank you so much. This was it's so interesting. Thank you so much for watching our show, the Galah Show. I'm the host Galina Kuptsova and the co-host Sergey Kuptsov, and of course one of the great players of blues, Duke ROBILLARD. Thank you.
And
Goodbye.
his life
Thank you.
full of blues.
Enthusiasm. Bye.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.